Hey there. Before we jump into today's episode, we want to thank you for tuning into Unapologetically First Gen. This is the podcast where two sisters share what it's like to grow up as first-generation immigrants, everything from the hilarious moments to the heartfelt ones. Each week, we'll bring you personal stories, honest conversations, and amazing guest interviews that celebrate the first-gen experience. So if you love laughing, learning, and feeling connected, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. It really helps us grow. If you want to contribute to episode topics and get exclusive content, join our Patreon linked in the show notes.
Hello, I'm Stacy, the younger sister. I'm a former teacher turned copywriter, cat mom, and slightly obsessed with romantasy books.
And I'm Leslie, the older one, operations expert, home baker, mom to 2 kids and a bunny. Hello and welcome to another episode of Unapologetically First Gen. We are really excited to bring another guest. Isaac has been a friend of ours for, I would say nearly 2 decades. He was with us partying it up on Tequila Tuesdays and
100%.
and he and I have really grown into adulthood together. Isaac has a super interesting journey. Well, Isaac, you have lived so many places. So you started in Botswana, you came to the U.S., you did a little bit of bouncing around in the U.S., mainly along the East Coast, and somehow you've ended up back in Canada. Or I shouldn't say back in. Somehow you've ended up in Canada. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay, thank you. Pleasure to be here. Well, it's been a long journey. I would call myself a perpetual immigrant. So my family's actually Zambian. And then when I was age 2, we moved to Botswana, where I stayed there till I was 17, went to high school, went to grade school. Got a scholarship to go to the U.S., to Providence College, Rhode Island. Did my 4 years there, moved to Boston, spent some time in Arizona, somehow ended up in, Athens, Georgia with my sister, and then moved down to Huntsville, Alabama after that. So I don't know whether I was trying to make my life more difficult, but that's kind of where I went. And then after that, I deported myself. Went back to Botswana.
You self-deported?
I self-deported. I went there and said, ICE, no need. I got this. And then I went to Botswana, which was quite wild. It was difficult going back home, not feeling like you're quite at home, but kind of growing into that. But I realized I had to get out somehow. So a Canadian came and kidnapped me from my village.
Those damn colonizers.
No, okay, no. I met Lila in Botswana, and then we immigrated to Canada.
Wait, so what was she doing in Botswana?
She was working for like a non-profit organization that served orphan and vulnerable adolescents, and I actually worked there too. Yeah, you know.
One really interesting thing you just said was that you left the U.S. and you went back home, but you weren't really feeling like home quite yet. It took some time. And that's something that we hear all the time in the immigrant community. Our dad has said, I don't feel like this is my home, but I also don't feel like that's my home. Yeah. It's something that's super common because you're living between these two cultures, and you are now a part of both of these cultures, which feels somehow like you're excluded from either of them.
It's especially heightened for me because, as I said, even growing up in Botswana, I was the immigrant. They would say there's a word, makwerekwere, means like gringo. Same concept. I was an outsider even growing up. Then moved to the US, and that was a very kind of an oppressive 4 years of not understanding or trying to fit in. When I, A, did not need to fit in, B, it did a lot of psychological damage to strip a lot of stuff away. And when I went home, that new individual that was created was just not applicable for Botswana. And people are like, what's wrong? Why are you so loud? Like what's going on?
And that's funny because I've always known you as just being a loud personality. So it's
No, I
weird to
got
me
it.
that
I got it from college. What
that's
up,
so
bro?
interesting.
Yeah.
I can't even picture you any differently.
As a black man living in different states, what was that like?
And as an immigrant.
And as an immigrant.
I'll deal with it as an immigrant second, because that's a whole different story. As a black dude, African, whatever, you get a sense that the way each of the regions would treat you is different, but it was based on the same premise. Providence is more like Latino, Cape Verdean, Italian, some white folk, and a few black folk. That's what it was back then. So there I actually felt more outstanding, actually, because when you walk around, you're not kind of the norm. Boston seemed like it was somewhat fashioned in the same way as apartheid South Africa. They're like, these people, you want to find the Portuguese, it was where Leslie was in Cambridge. And all of a sudden they're like Brazilian dance parties there. Then you go across to Harvard Square and it's a completely different group of people, vibe. You go downtown Boston, it's just, I have to say, if there's any racism I encountered that side, it was downtown Boston, actually. Then Athens, Georgia. Those places are so cool. I have like a whole group of friends that I met there. And there are more black people there. But also you gotta know where they are and be around there. Because one of the first things they said is such and such a street, such and such a neighborhood, if you go there and drive around there, the cops will follow you. And sure as hell, the cops followed me. And I know he was following me because I did nonsense on the road. I went to a grocery store here, I stopped here, I took a left turn, right turn, still there. But I like to look at it like he was nice enough to escort me all the way back to my house. He's a nice guy.
That's a positive way
let's
to
be
look
positive.
That is a very positive
He
way.
took time out of his night to just drive me home, make sure I'm okay. Then I decided to up the ante and go to Huntsville, Alabama. There it was difficult because it's more spread out. It was a vehicle kind of a city, and man, oh man, did it just, unless you were around the university areas, it was quite unfriendly vibed. I would say I enjoyed my time in the South, but it seemed like there were more things for me to worry about in terms of my safety and my interactions. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, being black and so forth, you're gonna experience the discrimination everywhere. You won't be called the N-word in Boston as much. I put the caveat, but then there are very insidious ways that cripple your personal and economic development and mental state, moreover. You're just like walking around like, something isn't fair here. And you can't quite put your finger on it.
Right.
Yeah,
whereas down...
your comparison to Boston and South Africa apartheid, because it's even today, if you look at the schools, they are still very, very segregated. I think it might even be worse than before busing. People were so mad about busing, and then they made all of these changes, and then it just kind of like swung back the other way. And now you still have these like really wealthy white schools, and then you have the other schools which are like mostly turning into pilot schools or charter schools or state-involved schools. So anyway, interesting comparison.
So it's quite bad now as well, because there are jokes about it now. Usually that means it's really bad. Like there are people making fun of it, like, oh, it's just like, because it was very segmented. Especially like as you go on the red line and go off on those little places on the side. You can definitely get off the wrong stop and it's not as pleasant as others. So
It's like the number one bus. You start off in like a super yuppie nice neighborhood of Harvard Square, and then you end up on Meth Mile.
I think that might have been after you left. That area near Boston Medical Center has really turned into like, I mean, it's called Methadone Mile.
Yeah, because when I was there, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. In fact, after I left the U.S., the drugs thing seemed to take it to another level. The opioid crisis and so forth. That seems really bad, and it doesn't seem like people are willing to do something about it, because if you actively do something about it, you acknowledge the problem. And the problem is making money off all that. So, yeah. So we're just trapped in this death spiral capitalist nonsense that's just I don't think any of us are benefiting as we should.
Can you give us some Canadian perspective for our U.S. listeners?
Mm-hmm.
What is healthcare like in Canada? Because I think a lot of the rhetoric is, oh, you have to like wait for a doctor for like months and months, but it's in the U.S. You have to wait for a doctor for months and months.
So I've lived in Botswana, Canada, and the U.S. In Botswana, healthcare is free, or you pay very, very little. There are private institutions. If you're super duper rich, you can go there, but everybody has access to healthcare. Canada, everyone has access to healthcare, and the privilege, I can hear the privilege. I had to wait for 2 hours. You know, I had to get my knee replaced, and I had to wait for months. So, to me, that's...
Sorry, I wasn't expecting an A.
Well, I did such a bad impression. I had to put something on the end.
I was like, is this Canadian Karen?
The thing with the Canadian healthcare system is it's understaffed, but it's understaffed because there's a bottleneck of talent. In New Brunswick at the medical hospital, there's a bottleneck there. There's a bottleneck with immigrants who come in and they say, oh, you saved a life in Pakistan. We don't think that our bodies work the same way. We don't. So there's a bottleneck of all that, and the health system is under pressure, which is leading to longer wait times and difficulty with new people finding like family doctors and stuff. But if you are sick and you need healthcare, you can get healthcare and you do not have to pay for it.
So interesting that you say that, because there's a huge problem I don't know about everywhere, but in our area right now, to get your primary family doctor.
Yeah.
Even here. And we live in an area with so many hospitals and clinics. Like, we're in this prime medical area, and I'm paying for healthcare costs that are insanely expensive. I'm paying co-pays. I'm paying what my insurance won't pay for. And I have the same problems that countries with universal healthcare have.
Yes, that's a really good point. You are the difference between you and I is you are actually paying. But the problems seem to be systemic to a lot of medical sort of systems in a lot of different countries. But the wait too long thing, I mean, we're talking about, because I coach a ladies team, talking about at least 5-6 players have had major ACL injuries, major hip injuries, and they've all been taken care of. Like, you do have to wait a few months to get a knee replacement. But I mean, the way I look at it is the priority of certain things. If you're struggling just to, in the emergency wards and to deal with the actual volume of patients, the knee replacement or the cosmetic situation you have to wait. But then again, I'm African, waiting at the bank. Like, we went back, waiting at the bank. I'll get a knee, a hip, and a head replacement before I get to the front of the line. We spent 6 hours at a bank. And then when they finally saw us, they're like, nah, actually, we can't do this. You have to come back tomorrow.
Sounds about right.
I think that the rich have done a really good job in this country of brainwashing people into thinking, if you just work a little harder, you too can be as wealthy as I. And they've done a really good job shaming people who need a social safety net. We've had Reagan talking about the...
he did a lot of damage in that regard.
He did. Yeah, we had Reagan talking about the welfare queen. So anybody who needs welfare is like demonized and is shamed for
even though white people
exactly,
use more welfare.
Stacey, exactly.
Yeah,
the term was put on the wrong group of people. Like, oh, these welfare people, it's white ladies. The whole thing was invented to provide an income to the stay-at-home white lady.
It's so interesting too, this idea of the hustle and working really hard, and then what you were saying, Isaac, you were like joking about the waiting, but all of this is like part of like white supremacy culture and making people workers, like little worker bees, to appease all of the rich people and get them what they want. And it's like, cool, I would much rather have health insurance.
I feel as though we had enslavement and then it ended, but it didn't really end. It was just manipulated into something else. Because you can, instead of providing a house, food, and so forth to enslaved folk, you can just give them enough money to only afford those things. Only. So basically, and then discourage them from actually living lives to the fullest and progress and stuff like that by not providing them with any support should things go wrong, not caring about the price of living, the cost of living. I feel like, why is the cost of living so high? Isn't this supposed to be the most prosperous region in the world? Is it supposed to be? I want to put that out there because I think we've been convinced that it is. But in fact, wealth disparity is absolutely insane. Especially in the US, it's insane. The top 1%, they talk about sums of money that I cannot imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine. Imagine there was this thing that if, let's say your rent was about $1,000, how long could you pay your rent with if you had $1 billion? And they said something like 600,000 years. You could pay your rent for 600,000 years. That is insane to me.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's like you could do so much for the people of this country with that money. It could go so freaking far. You could build schools, hospitals, like save hundreds of thousands of lives. And yet, what's more important?
I read something recently that was like Jeff Bezos could end homelessness in this country and still be in the 1%.
Yeah.
And I was like,
because I mean, look at this Elon. He's got 400 units of that billion amount I described.
And then he's like, why don't people like me?
Yeah, why don't people like me? Or you should come to work. He's the best example. He's like, oh, you should be at work early in the morning, late at night. You know, this working from home thing. It's actively keeping that enslavement strategy of work.
part of the reason that it's beneficial for people in power to have a lot of people living in that line of being able to survive but not thrive is that you don't have the time, energy, or breathing room to protest your conditions. I just also wanted to throw out there that I just Googled it for your benefit, Isaac, for when you go grocery shopping. Currently, eggs are about $6 for a dozen.
And so here they're about five Canadian. Now the price you've given me is in US dollars, right?
Yeah.
Man, you're telling me.
You want me to do a little math? I'm going to do a little math.
I would like you to.
Oh gosh, okay, let's see. $6 US is $8.32 Canadian dollars.
That is insane. I could buy. I think I could buy 24 eggs with that.
That's not like pasture raised eggs. Like pasture raised eggs are going to be like $12 right now.
Ooh.
You're not going to Whole Foods to buy eggs these days.
Not going to Whole Foods at all. Boycott.
But now let's talk about the eggs thing. No, but the eggs thing is the eggs thing an economic thing, or did that I was about to say chicken flu.
Bird flu.
What is bird flu? Is it not that is the driving force behind reducing the supply so much?
It's bird flu is what started this issue that we're in. There were promises made that there would be assistance to farmers so that we could drive down the price of eggs, and that has not happened.
I actually saw something that they're like that. I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast because I need to fact check it. But it was like that they're recommending to not test farms when they think it's bird flu because they don't want their rates to go up. Like this,
We're also talking about not testing
Yeah,
milk anymore.
yeah. I mean, and that's when I say capitalism has hit the final boss,
Has
where
it
we're
though?
like, we're yeah,
Hopefully.
we are cutting down, keeping you safe in order to keep profits high because the price of eggs won't ever really go down.
No, I think that we're going to be paying at least $6.
Around this much, yeah, around this much
And
for a
the
while.
problem is that it's a lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of business owners are having to cut back because it's a domino effect.
Affects really that couple of people who have a small business who get stuff in from other countries and sell them, or stuff
Or,
locally and sell them. It's wiping that out.
yeah, I am part of the Chamber of Commerce in our area, and I was talking to this guy who he sells glasses,
Hmm.
and he was saying that he had to raise his prices because of of like the tariffs and
Hmm.
changes and I don't even know if tariffs had been implemented at that point when we were talking, but he said that the reaction to the conversations had already risen his prices,
Hmm.
and then he was losing contracts, and he's like, and then on top of that, I'm now, he's like, when I came into this business I was competing with like other other storefronts. So like you go to the eye doctor, they have eyeglasses there. That's who he was selling to. But then he's like, but now I'm competing with websites that are selling glasses. And he was like, and I'm just not able to keep up. And he's like, I'm really worried that this business that I've had for decades is going to collapse because I can't sustain. People aren't going to buy my
Uh,
glasses so much
yeah,
more expensive.
I suppose that's as well how life has evolved a bit because that owner should be looking at how can he use the
I
internet to his advantage.
I actually said that. I was like, where can I buy your glasses? I was like,
Yeah,
I would
like
love to support you locally.
just
And he was like, I'm trying to open a storefront. And I was like, where can I buy them online? And he was like, oh no, I don't sell direct to customers. And I was like,
I think you
I think
have
you
to
figured out the
also, yeah,
issue.
you have to, yeah, because but it's very difficult for certain business owners who are from different generations.
And he was. I will say
Yeah,
he did have some
yeah.
of the coolest glasses I've ever seen though. So
Uh,
I
what is he online now? Pardon?
no. I didn't even get his business card because he was like, "Oh no, I don't sell direct." Because I was like, "I would love to support your business. I want good. I need glasses. I need to see." And he was like, "Oh no, I do business to business." And I was like, "Oh well,
I do have a lot of empathy for his
yeah."
situation, though.
It's hard.
Um,
You have to evolve
yeah,
with the times.
yep, yep. That's why, like, typically you'd have like these smaller businesses. You'd have levels of, you'd have the old, the old parents, and then you'd have a couple of kids who also started working on the business, and then you'd have the new ideas coming through.
I do
Yes.
want to ask you, Isaac, because I know we've kind of lectured off on how to be good humans. What are some like pieces of like your African culture that you really hang on to and that you want to pass down onto your onto the next
Is this not loud enough?
I
um,
I cannot stop looking at that painting of the woman behind
uh,
you.
yeah, let's see if I can.
It's so it's a lot of women.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
quite a nice one.
beautiful.
It's quite a nice one. I like that one.
If you're listening to this, check the Patreon. Leslie's going to screenshot Isaac's artwork in the background.
I think it's from Zanzibar, I want to say. Stacey, to answer your question, that was one of the toughest things about being away from an African country or my home, Botswana, for a while. You're always wearing the costume that is going to make you more successful. The suit and tie and the uh, khaki pants with horrible shoes, that kind of that kind of thing. And then you just forget trying to be something you're not. And man, when I took trips home, I was like, actually, we had really nice shirts. Bought a bunch of shirts, um, bought a bunch of art. because each piece of art seems to tell a story. I don't know how to explain it, but it looks like it's telling a story, giving a piece of history, a piece of culture. So my son has plenty of that kind of stuff too. Also languages. I've tried to teach him a little bit of Setswana, a little bit of Bemba. But I don't discriminate. French, Spanish, since any language I know, I try to pass on at least a few words. I'm like, next time you see your friend, say, hola, hola.
Oh,
¿Cómo
yeah.
está?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably just generally true, but for as long as I've known you, have been a student of languages.
I do.
So it's really nice to hear that you're passing that down.
I do feel like that is, when it comes to parenting, I do feel like it is, the bare minimum is to teach everything that I know. But it's good, like language really opens up his brain and it gives him different ways of thinking and perceiving things. I also teach him accents. I'm like, hey, when you go meet your grandfather, yeah, he's going to say, come and have pancakes. That means come and have pancakes. And it's ridiculous because he's this brown kid with this just such a Canadian, Nova Scotian. He's like, let's go to the store. The store.
That's so adorable.
So there's that. Music. We listen to a lot of music from the continent or the Caribbean. And to a lesser extent, hip-hop. Because hip-hop, they don't say nice words for a 5-year-old. We'll have to go through at least I put like the thing on Spotify that removes the non-explicit, but then there are like 3 songs left in all of 3 songs left and Will Smith. So I'm like,
right, I was
these
just
are
gonna
bad
say.
options. These are bad options.
It was like 3 songs, Will Smith, and like the Doggyland soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like
So I try because I think it's important to also bring whatever culture I have to offer here, instead of not having the self-esteem to ride with it. That was a good question, Stacey. I like that question.
Yeah.
Got me thinking about a whole a plethora of things. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
To plant seeds.
I mean, it's something that Stacey and I talk about and think about a lot, is this idea of how do you make your culture a part of your regular everyday life? And it's not necessarily an easy question to answer because you're not living in your culture. So it's sort of like, you said it's the music, it's the art, it's the food, the language, but it's hard when you're not enveloped in it to make it. And it
requires bravery, a lot of bravery.
Especially especially in the political climate that we are living in the U.S. right now. And it's part of the reason that we do this podcast is because we, as white people, as white immigrants, can talk about immigration, for now anyway.
Yeah.
We'll see if we...
Well, you guys look a little European. They're coming for you.
I mean, we'll see if Canada's going to begin allowing American refugees anytime soon.
I think they actually already have started accepting American refugees who
Have we?
I've heard that they're starting to accept the students who are at risk.
Okay.
That makes sense. I think trans people should be on the list too, because it is really bad for trans people right now.
It's really bad. Off of a fairly invented fear. It's fairly invented. Most of these people have these strong beliefs. We're doing a diversity thing at work, which is very, very not a waste of time.
I'm sorry.
Some of them I'm like, is this for me? I live it. A lot of people are having extremely strong opinions about groups of people they have never interacted with.
Yeah.
And that's really important when you look at history and what has justified atrocity. It's that you do not humanize the people you're talking about. And then you create these stories. If I was walking into a bathroom, okay, and I'm a guy, I'm not really worried about a transgender individual. I'm worried about a dude. I'm worried about a guy.
Yeah.
So if we're going to treat transgender folk as that big of a threat, then we should do that to men too. Let's ban men.
I have never encountered a trans person, and I live in an area where we happen to have a large population of trans people. I think because this city is quite safe for trans people, but I have never felt uncomfortable around a trans person or like a trans person walking behind me. But man, have I felt that with just random guy walking behind me. Yeah, middle of the day. I'm like, what does he do? In a store. I'm like, why is this guy following me? We're at Target.
So it's not like I'm saying, obviously, the collective men are bad, but they pose collectively a bigger risk to anybody than anybody else. So I don't think anyone can be on a high horse about living safely with transgender, LGBTQ, etc., etc. I mean, and if you mind your own business, guess what? It just mind your own business. Just live your life and you'll be fine.
Imagine.
Yeah.
That's kind of my philosophy. I'm like, as long as you're not impacting anybody else, you do you.
Just chill, yeah.
Like, I don't care what drugs you're on or, who you choose to sleep with or literally anything. Like, just stay in your lane. Let people live their lives. You don't need to, get involved in other people's medical decisions or anything like that.
I refuse to even have an opinion about pro-choice and pro-life. I refuse to even have an opinion.
What a wise man.
I feel like...
my opinion is not necessarily needed or valuable in the whole discussion. Y'all discuss it, and I think if people want to do what they want with their bodies like I do, then I don't see any problem with that. It's not my business. I went to St. Paddy's Day with 12 white folk, and then I was kicked out. The only one. So you're disorderly. And I was like, nah. Those 3 big Irish, 100% Irish dudes, they cannot walk. They cannot walk. And I'm calmly saying, this was my response to being kicked out. Please don't touch me. I'll escort myself out the door. I don't want to cause any problem. Then he was like, yeah, let's go. So he went with me. And then as soon as he got out the door and saw the cops, his chest, his heroes, his chest went up. He starts to ruffle me like I've been fighting all the way out. And, they arrested me and I spent the night in the drunk tank with the lady who was looking after us there was lovely. I was chatting the whole night.
I love the idea of a completely sober you sitting in the drunk tank, just being like, oh, so you have kids too? Oh, I also have kids.
No, that's exactly what that's exactly. And then there was a guy next to me who was having an existential crisis. It's like, my dad's gonna kill me. I'm like, well, life is, because I was a couple of years older. I'm like, life is really can be tough. Sometimes we end up in places where we just don't want to be. So it was the weirdest night. Then they brought us sandwiches and water. And then at 4 a.m., they just let you go.
That is really funny.
They're get home before anybody sees you.
It was like, I was clearly singled out. Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Where was that?
It was downtown Halifax. Bars there are certain bars where you're there's zero margin of error. The margin of error is negatively proportional to how dark your skin is.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what I mean, the darker, the less margin of error. Can't do anything. If you just, and then guys come up to me the other time. This is random. Sorry, I'm on a tangent. The guy came to me in the bar and he's like, "Yo, you got any drugs?" And I said, "Yeah, meet me." Gave him 2 blocks down the road. Meet me there in 15 minutes. And then I went back to dance. And I was like, it's probably going to be really... Don't ask stupid-ass questions to people.
That's a really good way to handle that, actually.
Yeah, just turn them away. And then, so yeah, and that really sort of puts a well-rounded example of the kinds of things that one has to experience if you're a person of color, immigrant, and so forth. I also found out immigrants have superpowers. I can be simultaneously lazy, but take all the jobs.
Yes, I've heard of this too.
Have you lazy, but take all the jobs?
Yeah.
I also raised housing prices by myself.
I heard.
Mm-hmm,
I heard.
Isaac, what makes you unapologetically you?
I think it's because I've always been fine with the fact that I'm a little different. I've always been, as I said, a perpetual immigrant. So it was always important to develop some kind of self that I could be no matter where I was. And you know, it's even if you ask people in high school, I was just as a little off in some ways. I don't care what people think, but I care about others. So, yeah, and even when to manage all the hatred and pushback in the world, I just decide to have empathy for the people who feel that way about others when there's no reason.
We will wrap up the episode. Thank you so much, Isaac, for coming on. The last time I had talked to Isaac before this episode, I was in high school, so it was really nice to catch up and hear all about Isaac's adventures in the past decade. So if you are listening, make sure to follow along on our Patreon, sign up if you want exclusive behind the scenes, access, bloopers, fun stuff, and thank you again for listening. Until next time. If this episode resonated with you or you have your own first gen stories to share, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Stacey Braga Copy or Streamline with Leslie on both Threads and Instagram, linked in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with someone who'd love it. Until next time, keep embracing your roots and making your own path.